I had some young people in one of my courses earlier, it was in the summer, and we were talking about Neuralink, the chip that the FDA just approved from Elon Musk. This is his company. And it allows a human without any wires at all to communicate directly with the hard drive on their computer. And so here's these young kids in the room. They said, are you telling me that all I have to do is put a computer chip in my brain and I can play Grand Theft Auto with no wires?
No controls.
I can think, no controls? Sweet. Or there's some other words they use, but sweet.
Right.
Sweet was a lot of it, because they don't realize the biological imperative. There is an adage in biology that says use it or lose it. Perfect example. When I was back in the 50s and 60s, I was taught, and you probably were when you were young as well, that we were born with a fixed number of neurons in the human brain. And so this was leverage in college. You know, when you're in college, every beer you drink, you're going to lose some neurons, so you better not drink too many beers. You know, this is what they're saying. But now we know, up until the last breath, the hippocampus in the human brain is creating new neurons, but there's a catch. Every time those neurons are created, they must be engaged in a meaningful way within about 7 days, or they will atrophy and die. So that is true for all the systems in the body. We are a biological system that works on demand. If we don't use our systems, then they begin to atrophy. So you begin to replace the human brain with computer chips. Or here's a study, an actual study that was done. Young kids, 3, 4, 5 years old, get up in the morning, they eat their bowl of Cheerios or whatever it is. Their parents sit them on the floor with an AI visor, and they leave them there for a few hours. And here's what's happening. In that AI world, they're seeing stuff they would never see in their backyard with their friends.
Yeah.
They're hearing sounds, they're seeing images, colors. And what has happened, this has gone on long enough now that psychologists are able to do the studies. Those young people their physical stature is demented, their brain size is stunted, their cognitive development is stunted, their visual cortex is enlarged, because look at what they're doing. They are simply watching rather than engaging in creating. When you and I were kids, I mean, we'd go out, we'd take a blanket off the bed.
Bicycles in the backyard, yeah.
We'd make a tent and make a fort, and all of a sudden we've got a fort, and we're using our imagination. They're not doing it, they're just watching it all done for them. And so the psychology magazines are actually showing now, and it can all be reversed through epigenetics, so that they're not lost. But it's showing that it's not harmless. There is an impact, there is an effect. And it's another example. When our biology is replaced with technology, the gift of our humanness begins to atrophy in many different ways in one generation. Next generation comes along through epigenetics now, it's passed down, and the body says, oh, you know, we don't do those functions anymore. We used to, but it's a vestige of our past, because now we've got a chemical to create the immunity in our bodies, for example, and that's something that's actually proposed, you know, right now. Right now, policies are being written, laws are being enacted to implement many of these technologies in our bodies. And the term, there's a general term for this, Lewis, it's called transhumanism. Trans simply means beyond, and human is our biology, so it's beyond our biology. And I did an interview recently, and someone asked, they said, well, isn't this a part of our natural evolution? It's not a part of our natural biological evolution. It is a form of a technological evolution that's not good for us. It's not good for us humans, because we lose the very essence of what it is that we cherish in our humanity. We lose our ability to love, forgive, sympathy, empathy, compassion. We lose the ability to discern rather than judge. We're taught to judge, but the healing comes from our ability to discern.
Wow.
We lose all of those things when we begin to give our humanness away. So we've just covered a whole lot of ground. I'm going to come back. There's a concerted effort right now in these next few years to diminish the power of our humanness. One of the ways that's being accomplished is by us either being encouraged or mandated some of the policies will be mandates coming from the UN through our United States Congress. They're going the legal route to accept technology into our bodies to replace our humanness. When we do that, we relinquish that precious, ancient, and sacred gift that we were given when the first of our kind stepped onto this planet 200,000 years ago. We've only been here 10,000 generations.
Wow.
200,000 years, not that long. And we were given these abilities given to no other form of life. And now we're being taught and indoctrinated to believe that we are flawed, powerless victims of a world that we have no control over and that we need something outside of us. So the flip side of this now, in the new science, and this is exciting, is showing us, wow, that we are literally a highly advanced, technologically sophisticated, soft technology. Neurons. One of the reasons that science is beginning to think of us, maybe some of your guests have talked about this, is that we've been conditioned to think of our biology as this soft, gooey, sticky, wet stuff, inside the cells. And that is one way of thinking of us, but now scientists are looking at us from a perspective of information technology. These are IT perspectives. And so the discoveries, they're not showing up in biology books, they're showing up in engineering journals like IEEE, and these engineering. Who's reading those? I mean, my community's not reading.
Sure.
But let me just give you an example. There was the Journal of Advanced Computing Technology, which I don't read, and most of my colleagues don't as well, unless we're researching a book or something. Came out with an article, and it showed that human DNA is literally a fractal antenna, is the term that they use. So what's that mean? We think of antennas being tuned to something very specific, like a specific TV station or radio station or CB station or whatever. Fractal antennae are receiving multiple signals from a broad spectrum of bandwidth simultaneously. We're pulling in information from the world around us all the time across this broad spectrum, and then we're transducing it into meaningful signals in our bodies. That's a very different way of thinking of the human body. So I'll just run through this really quick. What the science is showing, 50 trillion cells in the body. Every cell is a micro circuit. It's a gated circuit is what engineers call it. It's got input, output, all the functions within our cells. They function as transistors, as resistors, as capacitors that are massaging that information. Every cell has a voltage of about 0.07 volts. You say, well, that's not very much, but you do the math. 50 trillion times 0.07 is over 3 trillion volts of 3.5 trillion volts of electrical potential, which is
in our body.
In our bodies. Now, we don't actualize it all the time, but what if you could harness that for your own healing or to optimize cognition, optimize whatever it is we're going to do in our lives? But it doesn't stop there, because we're receiving photons of information. We're transmitting photons of information. We already said the DNA in our bodies, our DNA stores information. And let me just use the terminology and see if you've heard this before. The DNA in our bodies stores every successful genetic transaction in our species in a way that's transparent, it is immutable, and it's secure. And if that sounds familiar, it should, because that is the basis for what is the new financial system of the world, the decentralized financial system we call blockchain technology. Blockchain technology mimics the way information is stored in the DNA of our body.
Really?
So once again, I'm saying all this that we build around us is mirroring what we already do in our bodies. They compared a human brain to a microprocessor.